Hi Vince, thanks for joining us. If you want to just give us a quick rundown of like who you are, where you're from, and how you got into filmmaking.
Cool. Hey Rory, thanks so much for having me on. So I'm Vince Knight. I'm a cinematographer, predominantly a cinematographer, and as my career has grown, I have done feature films and commercials, music videos, and as a side sort of job, I also run the International Motor Film Awards.
Do you want to just give us a little background of like maybe where you grew up and how you first kind of got into filmmaking, and if you remember like the first time you kind of got paid to do what you do?
So I grew up in Devon in the southwest of England. Very small town vibes, very countryside, not much happening. And I was always that kid with a little handy cam, using mini DV tapes. I don't know if you remember those. And I was filming like the pets, and I was filming skateboarding videos and just kind of stupid shit with friends, you know. And I never really thought that filmmaking could be a career. I always just shot videos for fun, and then at school they're like, "So what do you want to be? What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." It's like I didn't connect the dots, you know. I didn't think that it was even an option to like make videos professionally. That hadn't even, like, obviously I knew about movies, but I didn't even, when I was younger, it didn't really click that like people worked on these and got paid to work on these, you know. It was just, yeah. So I guess as I grew up, and I went to university to study graphic design, actually, because that was kind of what I was encouraged to do, because my, you know, the things I liked were like art and design and stuff like that. So I just went off to uni and did graphic design and hated it, quit, and then pursued filmmaking. Yeah, by that point I realized I could make a career out of it. And then I started shooting little car videos for friends and stuff like that. And then that's when one of my videos got seen by Drift All Stars. So I was filming for a race series. So I don't know if you know of Drift All Stars, but back in the day they were like sort of drifting racing championship. And it's funny, my friend Al Clark, who I know you've done a podcast with as well, he has a background doing Drift All Stars as well. And I didn't even know of him or anything. We're just both making drifting videos, which is quite funny. And I feel like filming drifting is like the sort of starting point for a lot of automotive filmmakers back in the day. You know, you kind of, what do you have access to? You've got friends with cars, you've got friends going to drifting events and stuff like that. So the guys from Drift All Stars hired me, and that was probably my first proper paid, you know, let's go, go to work kind of shoot.
Yeah, because I think like those, you know, events, it's kind of like concurrent work. It's like a good way to kind of train and get things done, and you only have like a limited amount of time to kind of capture what you can, and then edit it. Were you doing editing as well, or just
editing as well? Yeah, you're right. I mean, these event videos are a perfect way to train, because you're kind of operating on your own or a very small team, and you've got to capture things as they happen. So it's like a documentary, isn't it? In a way, it's like shoot content as best you can, and doing the editing as well. You learn very quickly like what helps, what is good for the post process, and how can you speed things up, and how did you mess up, how could you do better. And yeah, I did a lot of editing back in the day, so I got very quick at editing, and I mean, I hate it now, but so we were doing the highlight videos for those guys, and yeah, just traveling over the world doing events and making a lot of great friends. And yeah, it was a lot of fun back then.
Like we were saying, it's very hard to kind of get good at something if you're not constantly doing it. So to have like that concurrent like workload of things coming in, projects, and I guess you're learning on the job, you know, shooting what you can, and then receiving that feedback, whether it's from, you know, the people you're working for, or the athletes themselves, the drivers, and or the audiences, you know, seeing their comments. Maybe was it like going to anywhere like on YouTube or?
Yeah, so I ran a sort of production company brand back in the day called Atomotion. I'll send you a link and you can have a little look. But yeah, so it grew into having like a team of people. We had photographers and videographers, and it either went onto our channel or onto the client's channel, so Drift All Stars or Drift Masters, wherever we were working for at the time. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to see things go out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and see all the comments coming in. And you know, there's always a lot of fun seeing like things go like viral back in the day. I mean, viral back then was a very different thing, wasn't it? I mean, if you got some tens of thousands of views, that was viral. Now it's crap, isn't it, if you get that many views? But we were very excited, and yeah, it was the early days of sort of event videos, I think, and it was very exciting times.
And did you kind of get an idea of like where the money's coming from and how you can kind of get to the next gig or like build out a business? Like, how are you kind of thinking in terms of like, just thinking about what you can do next?
Back then, at the same time as shooting the drifting stuff, I was also shooting like narrative short films and documentaries on the side and stuff. So I think the drifting was like a very good, solid, reoccurring work that I could keep doing, and it was a lot of fun to do. But what I really was trying to pursue was sort of shooting narrative stuff and films with stories. And so I was at the same time pursuing this kind of like film industry in London of directors and producers and people trying to get films going. And I feel like it's a very different world to automotive stuff. So I kind of had like 50% there and 50% here, and trying to do them both at the same time. But I mean, back then I was earning just enough to make a living, really, and not really too worried about that sort of stuff. Like I was renting a place in London, and luckily back then rent was a lot cheaper. And I was always like, if I can make enough to pay my rent and enough to eat, I'm happy. So I was just spending all my extra money on traveling and shooting my own stuff and doing all sorts of stuff.
That's nice. Yeah, it's good to not worry about money all the time and just have fun with your friends and creating content constantly. But yeah, like you said, talking about the narrative work, what was, I guess you didn't really have a goal or a plan. Maybe you had in the back of your head, how can I do it? Like these steps involved. But thinking back, like what was it that kind of got you to the directors? Or did you reach out? Did you call? Did you show? Like, did you enter short film competitions, like that kind of thing?
Exactly. I mean, back in the day, I was like a yes man, and it's like every single opportunity or anything that I knew that was going on, I was getting involved in. Every single friend's production, I was helping out. Anything I could apply to online, anything like that. And I was just shooting as much as I could, short films and little promo things and anything I could. And yeah, sending the short films to film festivals was a really big part of it. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people make connections, and, it kind of helps grow your career. So I was attending lots and lots of film festivals as cinematographer, and I directed some short films and stuff like that, and sending them as many places as you can. And I mean, I know film festivals is a whole other topic of discussion, but yeah, it was good. And I feel like for anyone starting out, my advice would really be to just do as much as you can. Just if the opportunities aren't coming to you, then go and make them yourself. And if no one's hiring, just go shoot your own things, because ultimately, what do people need to see to be able to hire you? They want to see what you can do in your show reel. So just shoot some stuff, even if it's you and a friend, just film them walking around or doing something and try and tell a story or try and get some nice images. And yeah, that's basically what I was doing. And my kind of early day show reels was just silly little things, really, but cut in the right way, you could kind of make it look like, you've done a big range of things, and, make it look better than it is. And yeah, it kind of grew from there.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's like, what have you done before? Like, we need this guy to film a specialized commercial about a certain product, like a washing machine or something. Show us your washing machine video. And you're like, I've got one about a toaster. And they're like, that's not quite the same thing. It's like, oh boy. But in terms of shooting a feature film, it's like, that's another big thing. So you could have said, I've done, like, so how did you get to like Winnie the Pooh?
It's a catch-22, isn't it? Of you want to work in features, but they won't hire you for features unless you've done a feature. So what I did is I was very lucky to get hired as a second unit cinematographer on some features. And so in a way, I could say I'd shot a feature, or I'd worked on a feature as a DP. And that really kind of helped people to, or at least helped directors and producers kind of go with me, I guess, in a way. And soon after I got my first feature as a cinematographer, that was 2013, 2014. and I've done maybe 50 feature films since then.
50?
Yeah, so quite a lot. Yeah. A whole range of like, very, very, very low budget stuff, up until like maybe about the 5 million range. But yeah, still all low budget really. But it's I love them. Narrative's where my heart is.
Are they all like different directors, or do you kind of work with the same kind of people a lot of times?
I do often work with directors again, so I'm lucky in the sense that they come back and hire me again, and it's always an honor or a pleasure when someone comes back and wants to work with me again. But yeah, lots of different directors over the years. It's always nice to work with new people as well. So yeah, just.
What would be like your biggest film? The one that I know is like the Winnie the Pooh film.
Blood and Honey films are probably the most popular, well, not popular, most well known. They've definitely got the fan base, and they went super viral back in the day, didn't they? So I guess that would be the ones that if someone ever asked me like, oh, have you shot anything, I'd know. I'd say, have you heard of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? And, but my biggest project maybe would be Madness in the Method, and that was the Jay and Silent Bob movie. So I don't know if you know of Jay and Silent Bob.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah, Jason Mewes, and a whole bunch of cameos. So we had sort of Vinnie Jones and Gina Carano. It was Stan Lee's last movie. We had Dean Cain. A lot of people turned up for that film, so it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so that's probably the biggest in terms of the cast and the scope of the film. But yeah, then these days, I guess it's the Pooniverse films which we're working on, which they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was wondering like how you guys got away with like the copyright, because Disney's known of like going after people and suing them whenever you use one of their characters or allude to it. I guess, is it considered like a parody, or like how did you kind of?
So the directors and producers I work with, Scott and Reese, they are always looking for what is the hook of the film, what's the what is going to get people involved and interested, and they're always coming up with crazy horror ideas. And Reese had found out that the Winnie the Pooh IP was expiring, so once the IP is expired, essentially you can make your own version of it. Really, it's the idea is that we're not sort of taking Disney's idea and making a horror version of it. We're doing a horror version of the original Winnie the Pooh that Disney made their version of. So legally, I guess Disney can't do anything. I guess, we're very lucky that they didn't.
What about the crazy fans that love Winnie the Pooh? Is there any backlash? Like, what have you done to Pooh?
Half the fans are hardcore horror, people that love it, and and then the other half are, we have a lot of angry parents and angry Winnie the Pooh fans, and we've had death threats and we've had all sorts of crazy things sent to us. But I think it really is a sort of Marmite split, isn't it? But the fans that love it, they're crazy, and they're just amazing to have. And it's when we did the premiere for Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 1, we went to Mexico City for it, and literally like flying in, landing at the airport, there's people dressed up like Winnie the Pooh that are horror characters to meet us. And at the premiere, massive amounts of press and fans in costumes, and people wanting signed merch that we hadn't even seen, like merch that they've like made themselves. People made their own t-shirts, people had made their own masks and all sorts of things. So that was really, really crazy. And the cinema did very cool things. They had their own custom Winnie the Pooh cups. I think I've got some over there somewhere. We had the popcorn, which was split in 2 different flavors, so two different colors to look like blood and honey, and I think it was like spicy and sweet or something like that. Yeah, it was really cool. And it's for a film of that size, budget and crew, to have fans waiting for it is just unheard of.
It's always hard to like launch a new franchise, like especially with studios. It's like they don't want to invest in something unless it's proven. But yeah, even doing like a spin-off of like something that's well beloved like that could still go either way. So it's lucky, like you said, people love horror. So no matter what, if you make a good horror film, they're gonna love to watch it.
Like horror's like the only genre where you can kind of get away with really low budgets, because the fans want to see the gore and the scares and stuff like that more so than being bothered about a name attached or, you know, really high production values necessarily. But like, obviously it's good to have those as well, but you know, you can make something scary or gory and people will love it with very little money.
I don't know if there's any other films you wanted to talk about.
Winnie the Pooh's led on to, you know, a series of films that we're making now. And Bambi has just come out in cinemas, Bambi the Reckoning. Peter, bigger budget and slightly bigger sort of ambitions, and we're trying to make each one kind of unique and different in its own sense, but still part of the same universe. So they range from, you know, Blood and Honey, which is very schlocky, fun, silly horror with silly deaths, to, you know, Peter Pan, which is like a very straight, dark slasher movie and, you know, very dark themes. And Bambi is a bit more of like a straight horror, sort of classical scares, and then Pinocchio is back to the kind of silly, sort of childish fun. Yeah.
It's good that you got that whole universe, you know, because it seems like it's kind of unlimited. If people keep watching it, you know, you'll keep making it, I guess.
Yeah, you know, that's it. If people turn up and, you know, come and watch the films and buy the film, then, you know, we enables us to make more. So that's it really.
What is it like, you know, working on set in terms of like a low budget film? Like, I'm sure you have to kind of rein in whatever ego you might have. Like if you're, you know, a DP and you're like, yeah, I want to have this and want to have that. And it's kind of like, we've only got 5 minutes to shoot this thing and we have no money and you can't hire any lenses or anything. It's like, oh.
No, I mean, some of my work is I'm doing, you know, very, very high budget commercials. I did a military commercial that we worked out to be probably like 25 million budget, and all sorts of car commercials where you get all the toys you want and they're like, yeah, no worries, yeah, we'll get that, how many, you know, and when do you want it to come? And then we get onto the low budget stuff and it's, you know, there's only a couple of us to do camera and lighting and we don't have all the toys, we don't have think of new ways, and that often leads to sort of nice things that you wouldn't have necessarily done before. You know, if you go in with a set plan and that's how it has to be done because it's all signed off, you know, sometimes you don't suddenly. I always think of if you're on a big set and you've got the, you know, the big machine, the big and you want to suddenly go down the road and get a quick shot of let's do the scene down the road where there's a nice sunset overlooking that view, and you know, it's you can't do that. But on an indie film, you sort of just run there and get it, you know. How
did you kind of, I guess, starting off small, maybe you kind of were feeling privileged to be able to work with all these different tools, and then it's easy to go back? Or some people feel like, you know, they never want to go back. It's like, I don't want to go back to those little...
It's definitely harder to go back because, you know, there was a point where I kind of got used to having ACs and gaffers and grips and a proper truck with parking, and you know, and then you go on to the indie stuff and you don't have those things, and it's like, you know, obviously I'll do it anyway, and it's, you know, I'm happy to, you know, it's an honor to be shooting, and you know, it's a privilege to be doing what you love, but sometimes it is hard to go back and suddenly, you know, the longer hours or the catering's not as good, all these silly little things that you think shouldn't make a difference, but it all adds up, and you know, it can be tough. But it's weird because the shoots are harder, but I do really love them. You know, I find them very exciting and enjoyable, and I think sometimes you don't need a lot of money or crew to make something to a level of, you know, really cinematic, high quality level. It's like cameras are so good now, and you know, if you have, you know, the right sort of camera package, you can, and the right, you know, if you're shooting out in natural daylight, you don't really need any sort of thing. Sometimes if you have the right moment, the right lighting, the right sort of situation, you can really capture something beautiful. But I find the independent stuff to be very very freeing and very fun to do.
No matter the money, I think it's mostly about the people. And if you have like people that really respect your vision, or, you know, respect what you've done in the past, or they trust you, it's a lot easier to work with, rather than like sometimes you might turn up to a job and they just treat you like a slave, like do this, do that. And you're like, whoa, like, you know, yesterday I was on another shoot where they really knew who I was, and now today they're like just ordering me around. So you kind of have to pick the people you work with sometimes.
The irony is the lower the budget something gets, the more likely people are there because they want to be there and for the passion and for the, you know, they're there to like help build something for themselves as well. So, you know, people tend to be more engaged and more keen to like work hard and get involved and have a team effort. And then you get to the bigger budget stuff and people are more likely to just be there for the money and they just want to clock in, clock out and see how much, you know, minimum work they can get away with and that sort of vibe. So, you know, it goes both ways. You know, obviously when you get to the bigger budget, sometimes you often will have, you know, higher quality crew, but have they got their hearts in it? Not necessarily. You know.
Yeah, it reminds me of, it's a long time ago, but like Alien 3, I think David Fincher went over to London to film it, and I think it was like, you know, Ridley Scott's whole production. So they're all looking at this young American kid, and they're probably all older, you know, English guys, and they didn't respect him. They didn't want to work with him. So he kind of felt like that. And yeah, sometimes you go on a set and, you know, it's the guys that have been there for 40 years, 50 years, and they don't want to be there. They don't want to do it. Whereas if it's, small, like independent film, and everyone's like there, they feel privileged to be there. It's a whole novel experience. And yeah, so I think there's different levels to filmmaking. And
so what you need a good mix, don't you, of people that are, you know, young and bright-eyed and starry-eyed and excited to be there and bring that kind. We need that energy on set. We need those people to, you know, it's a lot of people sort of turn their nose up at the runners and stuff like that. But I think, guys, we need these people that are, you know, excited to be here. We need this energy, you know, because it's very easy to become jaded and old and, you know, tired of it all.
Yeah, the old Hollywood before they're lost. Like they always wanted to be a star, and then they just end up washed up and hating everybody. I always wondered where those grumpy old men get their attitudes from until you realise, life's hard, you know. I guess they had a tough trip. But, yeah, I can kind of show, like, some of your films. Maybe, I don't know if you wanted to list a few of the trailers or something. I could cut to, like, I've shot this, and this. And, like you said, 50 is sounds like a...
Thinking back, some of my favorite films I've worked on, I guess really the one I mentioned before, Madness and the Method, definitely one of my old favorite ones.
How did you get that one? Like Kevin Smith, I thought he would have his own people. Like,
so Jay was actually the director on that one, and the producer is a dear friend of mine now, but we'd met because I was doing second units on his film before. So so that's literally, I was second unit on his film Allies, a director called Dominic Burns, and he went on to produce Madness and the Method and needed a DP. They already had shot, I think, 5 days in LA with another DP, and then they were doing a large shoot over in the UK, so they needed a UK DP, and then that's how I got involved. And then Breaking Infinity is a sci-fi movie, which was really cool. Time travel, crazy, you know, looping script and cool set builds and locations, and you know, we had a time machine tunnel that we used. It was very cool. My Bloody Galentine. So a couple of years ago, I did a couple of films back to back for Tubi Network. I don't know if you know Tubi within the States. One of them was My Bloody Galentine with Tracy Hayes directing, and then straight after that was Deadly Gossip. No, Gossip to Die For, they changed it to, with Nanair Miata. And yeah, 2 back-to-back projects, and those were great films. I mean, very, very funny scripts, very interesting scripts, and decent budgets. So, you know, My Bloody Galentine was a sort of comedy thriller slasher in a way. And then Deadly Gossip was like a very sort of like NYPD cop drama, thriller, detective movie. So 2 very different genres, but a lot of fun.
So you've done like documentary, sci-fi, cop, thriller, like horror, kind of done it, everything.
Every genre now. I mean, I haven't done a Christmas movie, but I've done a horror Christmas movie.
You have to do Home Alone 4 or 5. What are they up to now?
And then commercials wise, yeah, I've done a lot of sort of like car commercials and military commercials, fashion commercials.
What are the military commercials like? Do you need like a special clearance or anything, or is it just pretending?
Yeah, I had to. So the first one I ever did was an agency in London had been given a very big sort of client and brief, and they just asked one of their producers to go onto Google and find a list of their favorite 20 or 10 DPs, and I was on that list, and then the director picked me. So, that was fun, and we really got thrown in the deep end because it was filming. What can I talk about this? It was a special forces client essentially. So,
are they real like army guys, or are they like actors?
Yeah, no, real, not actual missions, but training exercises we were filming, and it was a very small unit filming them, but the amount of resources we had access to and the amount of money they spent was just obscene, really. And then through that, I made some good connections, and I work with an agency called End State, and they specialize in military stuff. So we've done commercials and sort of recruitment campaigns now for loads of different departments. So even like the Special Forces Police, the what they called the CTSFOs.
That's too big.
Yeah, done work for the SAS and SBS and Royal Navy and Royal Navy Commandos and the firefighters. Can't even think what else. But yeah, there's those shoots are a lot of fun, and then also the military stuff that is for sort of private contractors. So I've done a lot of music videos back in the day. Music videos are a lot of fun because you can just kind of go crazy with the visuals and do anything you want. And sometimes you and the director are sat down and we're trying to work out what crazy idea can we do, or what do we want to experiment with. And so often they're like 1 or 2 days shoot, and you can try anything you want. So we did a lot of creative things. Definitely send through some of those for you to watch. Like we did a load of music videos for Big Zoo. He's like a rapper, grime artist here in the UK. Sort of AJ Tracy and A2 and some metal bands like Silosis and Pop Evil. So yeah, those are a lot of fun.
Music videos are dead, people say, but it's always, if people have the money and they want to spend it, they're going to keep making stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the traditional music video might, be harder to do these days because the sort of TV channels aren't there anymore, are they really? But, artists still want cool content for their Instagrams and stuff. And some of the videos I've done have been, vertical, those short clips for Spotify where they like loop and stuff like that,
yeah.
Making that sort of content, which is, something different, but yeah. How
did this International Motor Awards idea come into your brain, and how did it first start?
Early in my career, I was, as I was saying, I was shooting all this sort of drifting and car stuff, and that led into car commercials. And the guy I mentioned before, Al Clark, who was doing the drifting as well, he'd kind of progressed from the drifting himself to the commercials as a director. And he got in touch with me to be his DP for a Mercedes commercial. And so that really probably was my first proper car commercial shoot.
What year was this?
This would have been 2012, 2013, I'd say. And yeah, so Al and I had, we went on to do a lot of car commercials together. But I remember it was on that actual Mercedes shoot where I kind of said to him that I have this idea for something I want to make, because all my narrative stuff I'd been sending to all these film festivals around the world. And as you know, there's thousands of bloody film festivals out there. And I kind of realized that there wasn't anything for my car stuff. I was doing all these, car videos and event videos and drifting videos and stuff. And I couldn't seem to find any car film festivals or anything for that content. So I was like, someone should make that. And kind of years kept going by, and I'm like, someone should make that. And I hadn't quite, plucked up the guts to just go and do it. And I sort of told Al about it, and he goes, yeah, we should do it. And I'm like, we should. He's like, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. And then we basically just, Al coming on board just sort of kickstarted it, and we started it. And that was 2013, yeah. So the first year, that was end of 2013, and then into 2014 was our sort of opening year for the back then it was called the London Motor Film Festival, and then a couple of years later we rebranded into the International Motor Film Awards, And yeah, every single year it's grown year by year by year. The level of submissions that we get is just, ridiculous. I'm completely out of my league now. I couldn't make a film and compete. But yeah, the quality is just always crazy, and we, every single year we have more and more submissions, and with being so many more submissions, we end up opening up for more nominees and having more categories because we want to cater for all of these films, and it just keeps growing.
Cool. So yeah, initially it was just London Film Festival, Motor Film Festival. So you thought, oh, it's just going to be in London, or as people are still able to enter, but then you realised, wait, this is not just a London thing. This is like an international awards.
I think originally, I went with London because a lot of film festivals, they have the city that they're based in. So, like the Cannes Film Festival in Venice and stuff like this, where it's still an international film festival and people can, submit from around the world and attend, but you have the prestige of the city that you're based in. And, and that's kind of the idea we went with by having London attached. And the reason we changed from festival to awards is because traditionally a film festival would screen all of the films in their entirety, and people can come and watch the films and kind of, see this content. But as we grew, we realized that for us to be able to screen all of the films is just going to be a huge amount of time. We'd need to book several cinemas around the city. We'd need to have a long weekend or a whole week. And a lot of these films, people aren't necessarily, it's tough because the fan base is there, but to be able to actually fill seats, it might be a bit difficult, I think, for that sort of thing. So we kind of decided to pivot to award show style, where we screen just segments of each of the films. And then that way we can really keep everyone involved, have everyone in the room. Everyone's there for networking predominantly. And we can, sadly, as years go on and we have more nominees, it means the segment gets shorter and shorter. And it honestly breaks my heart. But I don't know the solution. It's the same issue that the Oscars have. They're always trying to keep the show running as fast as possible because, the runtime of the event being too long, it's just, a problem. So I'm always up against this battle of how do I keep the show as short as possible, because people want to come there and drink and network and meet people and still do justice to the films that are nominated. I don't want to show them for 1 second. I want to show a good clip of the film.
Can you watch them online, or is there too many licensing problems and stuff?
We do post some of them, but we don't have like a full directory of all the films, just because, it would be a nightmare for licensing, and some people's films aren't quite released yet, or, they're planning to distribute it in some way. So we have all the nominees on the website to sort of read, and people can sort of search up the ones they're interested in. And, we're always pushing ones online on Instagram and sharing clips, and, full clips are ones that we're allowed to. But yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, last year we had 210 nominees, so it's a huge amount of films. And
how many submissions?
Infinitely more. Yeah, it's a big there's a lot more submissions. I don't know the exact number, but it's at least sort of triple the amount.
And then I don't know if you want to talk about the certain categories, because you'll have Mission Impossible next to a commercial, next to a short film, next to a documentary. How do you kind of categorize everything and put it together? As
the years have gone on, the categories have sort of expanded. We have things like drama shorts, drama features, documentary shorts, documentary features. A new one last year, documentary episodes, journalism films, event films. This is testing me here. Commercial films, independent films, creative films, student films. And it's it's tough because a lot of films kind of can fit into multiple categories. So it's a little bit hard to, sometimes when people are submitting, they're not quite sure which category to put it into. But the way we see it is we want, a category that at least fits your film in some way. So, and things end up shifting around a little bit, and, we kind of get everything into some category. But yeah, it's, if it's got narrative elements, then it belongs in the drama categories, and then split up depending on length. Same with factual documentary style. But then if it tends to be more like a motorsport coverage, then it'll go into event or journalism. But yeah, we have a category for everyone's films, really. So yeah, whenever they submit stuff, it slots in somewhere. So that's what we want.
Do you remember like the first kind of winner or winners in the very first time you ran it?
I remember in the first year we had 25 nominees, which seems like a crazy small amount compared to now. But at the time we were screening the full clips, and most people attended, and it was like a real tight community of people. We still had maybe sort of 300 guests there. So in terms of like event, it didn't change too much.
Was it always like a suit and tie type event?
Yeah, always black tie, always like an awards gala style. So yeah, from the first year, for example, in commercial category, it was Jaguar, the F-Type and the Bloodhound. Very, very cool commercial film. Best documentary film was Easier Said Than Done, which was like a rally feature documentary, I think feature, or very, very long at least. And then that went on to win the Grand Prix as well. And then creative film was Tokyo Midnight Lambo Run, and that was like following the guys in Tokyo with the crazy Lamborghinis with the neon lights and the crazy chrome sort of like wraps and stuff. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of cool films then as well. I mean, every year the films are always really, really, really good, and there's always new things coming in and things I never thought I'd see.
Because I always see like your insignia, like the badge on people's Instagrams. It's like a badge of honor saying, they got nominated or they won an award. And it's kind of like only kind of awards that people can kind of get for their specific like short films or little like even commercials. I mean, I know they have like the lines and stuff, but that's kind of the people you never even see, like the top agencies and stuff. It's like, where are they? But if you're making like specific short films or even videos for YouTube for cars, it's like you don't really get that chance to get an award or get that recognition from, I guess, your peers as well. So I think what it's done is it's shown people that, there is this way, there is this kind of interest that people want to see certain quality within their films, and it's just a way to reinforce them what they're doing is important, and maybe they can keep going.
Exactly. I mean, this is it. When I was making my car sort of little event videos back in the day, it really was a case of like, I want this to go further. I don't want this to just go onto social media and then get forgotten about, or and a lot of my car commercials, they'd go on TV for a week and then maybe it would go on McLaren's YouTube for maybe not, and a lot of them just end up getting lost. And there's so many sort of cool commercials back in the day where, you'd see them and then you wouldn't be able to find them again. Nowadays, things are easier to find because a lot of stuff does end up on YouTube. But at the start, like, yeah, a lot of things were just kind of getting forgotten about. So I wanted to make this sort of way to really promote and gather everyone together and sort of celebrate the work that people are doing, and kind of, get people together to meet each other and network, and and just kind of enjoy the work that we're doing, and sort of encourage people and inspire people to make, things, to keep shooting things, It's really heartwarming to hear that there's people out there that are shooting things specifically for the awards, or they're encouraged to shoot things because the awards is open for submissions now. And so it's that's great, and I think that's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because like you're saying, especially with commercials, like they spend like $1 million, like especially back in the day, on a commercial, and then you try to find it on YouTube and it's just some pixelated grins, like they spend all that money. But I think it must be because of like licensing or something. They say you can only use it for this amount of time, and then I don't know who owns it, maybe the agency or production company, and then they just bury it and then they make a new one. I guess it keeps on going, yeah.
Cars launched, they don't need to advertise it anymore once it's an old model or something, there's no need for them to do it, really. So, and like you say, licensing, especially for like music and actors and stuff like that, it's probably a nightmare. Yeah, but with the awards, we have the archive, so we've sort of collected a lot of these commercials, and all of our nominees and winners over the years have sort of been stored and kept securely. And from this year onwards, we've not announced it yet, but these are going to be stored at Silverstone. So that's really cool. They'll be part of the gallery at the Escapade in Silverstone. So they have all sorts of incredible sort of artwork and sculptures there. You know, our trophy will be displayed there along with you know, all sorts of photographers' works, and then they have TV screens around Escapade, so you can actually go there and they'll be looping nominees and winners. So it's kind of going to be the new home of the archive of the Motor Film Awards.
So yeah, it started in 2013, and then I know one particular series has been kind of seen by a lot of people as the go-to when you want to make a car film, is the Pennzoil commercials by Ozan. So when, I can't remember the year that came out, but what was that like in terms of like the impact that it had on automotive filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of the Pennzoil stuff back in the day. I mean, I think pretty much every petrol head has seen it at some point. You know, these are the legendary films, and when they got submitted, you know, I was stoked, because I was like, it's cool. You know, it's really cool to see this come in. I didn't really know anything about the director or the people behind them, really. But yeah, Ozan submitted the films, and you know, they won, and then he submitted some more, and then they won again, and he kept winning trophies. And I kind of had to say to him, like, you're going to have to stop, because you're winning everyone's trophies, you know. And so Ozan came on board, part of the jury, and he's actually now like a key part of the awards. I'd say that, you know, besides me, he's probably doing you know, a lot of the work and keeping things running. You know, he's a very, very big part of it. But he's a creative force, and those films were really iconic. And I think, they definitely have had an impact on the sort of style of people's commercials and the way people make films. They've definitely influenced a lot of people over the years. You know, even being at the awards, you know, I've had an eye over everything that comes in and out of the doors over the years, and you can see how, since these have come out, so many films have been inspired since then, and it's always funny. It's I mean, I'd say it's I would say that it's nice to inspire, but you know, sometimes it goes a bit too far and they're like blatant rip-offs. But you know, that's another topic.
Well, there's especially the sound. It's a very big influence, and a lot of, I don't know how many have actually just ripped it and put it on their own commercial. Even like big commercials you see, and you're like, it sounds awfully familiar.
I mean, that's Source Sound. They do amazing work. You know, Charles at Source, he's, you know, top of the game when it comes to the car stuff, and him alone has, you know, inspired, you know, a whole style of, you know, car sound design. And it's funny you say about people ripping things off. We did have one submission one year. I won't say which one, but it got it did get nominated, and then during the judging process, a couple of people flagged. They're like, this has got Pennzoil sounds in it, and we kind of studied it, and we're like, oh my god, this is like almost entirely just made up of Pennzoil sound. And we kind of went to the filmmaker and mentioned this, and it turns out the director hadn't realized, and the sound team that did it had just kind of ripped it off. And they went through the whole process of redoing it and relaunching the film. So, you know, fair play to them for sort of fixing their errors and sort of, you know, owning up to it.
So you've created this awards show, I guess, and it's created a whole community of people that really like to come together, like you said, network, and it's given people a reason to make a film or reason to, you know, keep doing it rather than getting a real job, like they say. So how does it feel to kind of be part of this community and seeing everybody kind of, you know, networking and getting along?
I mean, it's incredible, you know, and I feel like I always think to myself, like, okay, this is something that I started, you know, with Al, and now we're 12 years on, and it's grown to such a big level, and the sort of the level of the jury that we have involved. I feel like, you know, it's become something so big that, you know, we're almost out of our depth. But you know, it's you know, it's something that we have to keep doing, because I feel like so many people appreciate having the event to come to and to meet people, and you know, it's a lot of work, and it doesn't really make much money, if I'm honest. It's not a very good business. You know, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but you know, I feel like it's such a strong brand, and you know, it's such an honor to be able to do this with everyone. I can't stop it now. I always joke that I've set myself the largest amount of homework anyone's ever set, and now I'm kind of stuck to doing this every single year. I mean, right now I'm building the website for this year's nominees, and it's just, a crazy amount of work. And, we don't have the budgets to be hiring a lot of people to be doing this. So the team is quite small when it comes to the website and the graphics and the video editing and the organization of the event and the ticket systems and stuff like that. We have the larger team when it comes to the selections and the nominations and the jury, but all of the admin stuff aside, that is, it's just a few of us. And I end up having to edit the nominations reel every year, and it takes a huge amount of time, and it's a big pain in the ass, but yeah, it's great.
It's kind of like a unselfish thing, because a lot of people, like filmmakers, think that they're the best filmmaker and everyone else sucks. And it's like, so it's kind of, you meet those people and you think, wow, like, how did they get that? I guess it's their competitive nature that they want to be the best. So when you kind of bring everybody together, because online you don't really know who these people are behind the scenes.
The thing I love about the awards is, it is really such a vast mix of people in the room. You have student filmmakers, so it's their first little project with their own sort of little Sony DSLR or, like a little mirrorless. And, next to the table next to them is an Academy Award-winning stunt coordinator that working on the Hollywood movie. And it's like these people sort of mingling and getting to know each other. And, the sort of crazy sort of collection of people is really fun. And I think to be in that room, it's, if you get a film nominated in the awards, it is quite hard nowadays. So, if you do get nominated, you should definitely come. But aside from that, I think a lot of fans as well that just want to watch the films, they come along and sort of enjoy the night as well. So it is just really a big mix of petrol heads and filmmakers and movie lovers and all sorts. Yeah.
Without going down the AI rabbit hole, but less and less it's going to be real humans making these things. So to get everyone together and to see like a real person there, oh, he made that film, like, you'll see, you can actually go and talk to them and meet and see that they're actual real people. Because like you said, as a student, you kind of look up to these directors and you think they're like, gods almost. You're like, how did they ever get there? So to actually, be in the same room and talk and see that they're actually real people too with their own lives.
There's a lot of the sort of big agencies making these commercials end up working with the independent filmmakers they've met at the awards. We have students and indie makers, filmmakers, they're making these sort of no budget spec commercials or no budget documentaries, and and then they're meeting the contacts at the Motor Film Awards that are ultimately hiring them on real commercials. So it's great to see, and that for me, that is what it's all about. It's about sort of connecting people and putting people on a spotlight on their work and getting them progressing their careers, really.
Yeah, because like we talked about before, it's like they're not going to give you a feature film to shoot unless you've done a feature film. So if they're not going to give you a car commercial unless you've done a car commercial, but if you can go out and film some stuff with your friends and put together a little short film, it's the same way. Like they're not going to trust you unless you've done something. So the more you can do and more you can show, and even if you win like a festival award or some kind of like, you get a lot of views or you get a lot of likes, so people respond to what you're doing, then that's the proof, So sometimes you don't need the big budgets to go out and make something. You just have to go out and try and not give up.
Yeah, exactly.
What's happening this year? Is there anything new that we haven't heard about yet or seen?
We tend to sort of each year the categories expand just because, more films come in and, we suddenly find out that there's too many documentaries and some of them don't quite fit into features, some don't quite fit into short. So we added documentary episode last year, but then this year we've added Best Photography Award, which is not for the films, it's for photographers. And this is something I've wanted to do since year one, genuinely. Like I remember I've got a video with Larry Chen I did in 2014 or 2015, sort of announcing that he's joining the jury for the Motor Film Awards for the photography. And that was 10 years ago, and we never actually got around to doing this photography category because I just didn't know how to properly do it. How would you, because you obviously you've got your car filmmakers, the car photographers is like 10 times the amount of people. The world of car photography is just so much bigger, and to do it justice properly is a really hard thing. And So we thought, we really want to start sort of doing something for these guys, but how do you go about it? So the way we came up with is to keep it as a free category. People submit via Instagram, they get involved that way. We have 10 different themes to enter into. So, like motorbikes, black and white, drifting, stuff like that, supercars, modified. So there's a category, there's a theme for everyone. And then what we're going to do is people will, during the networking party of the Motor Film Awards, before the award show, we'll announce the winners of each theme there. And then during the main award show, we'll announce like a main winner for the photography award, like an overall photography winner. So they'll get a trophy on stage. So it's kind of like a test pilot year for photography to see how it takes off, see how it's received. And then, see if we kind of grow it from there, or if it's not worth it, stop it. But so far it's been well received. People are getting involved. I think for someone who does car photography to win a trophy is maybe kind of rare. I don't know how many car photography competitions are out there. I'm sure there's some, but to actually be in the room alongside the Motor Film Awards nominees, it'll be quite big for them, I think. And to sort of cater for the photography category, we've expanded the jury to have sort of car photographers, the people look up to. We've got Amy Shaw, we've got George Williams, GF Williams, we've got Larry Chen, and we're looking to expand this over the years as we go. And so it's exciting to have the photographers involved for once, and we're kind of excited to see what comes in and how it goes.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't have enough work on your plate, so you just added 1,000 more. You'd have to look at 1 million photos. But what are you looking for? What are the judges looking for in terms of the films? In terms of like why, who's getting picked and why? Like what are you looking for?
Really, it's just like, what is the concept, and is it original, and is it creative? And I think, is it well achieved? Is it technically achieved? It depends on the category, really, because I feel like some things, say like the commercials probably should be quite technically well done, but like something like a documentary, it could be terribly shot, but if it's got a really interesting character and a really good story and a really sort of inspirational, narrative in it, then it could be nominated. But I think what we look for really is just, is it engaging? Is it inspiring? Is it, does it get the adrenaline going if it's, one of those sorts of films? And it really depends on the category, because it just comes down to like, do you want to keep watching? When you click play, is it interesting? Does it keep you motivated to keep watching? Because often there's documentaries where it goes on and on and on, and you don't quite understand the purpose of this film. And but I think a lot of people are getting very, very good at filmmaking now. The standard of submissions is getting bigger and higher, and so I think for me it's about how do you stand out from the rest, and how do you keep that sort of creativity sort of unique. And
And what's how do you qualify to add a film? Like, it's called the Motor Awards. Like, so does it have to have a motor? Like, EVs allowed?
And EVs allowed. EVs got motors, electric motors. I mean, cars, bikes. We've had plane commercials and documentaries in. We've had boat commercials, like speedboat racing documentaries. I think it's a very broad sort of term. We sort of say motor because we don't want it to be automotive, which is just cars. It's like anything like that sort of, variety of things. But then we also, for the feature films, it doesn't necessarily have to be just like a car film. It doesn't have to be, Disney cars or Fast and Furious. It can be an action movie with a load of car scenes in it. And we're sort of judging those specific car chases because, filming car scenes is such a specific, specific skill set, if you will, that when we're judging the features, we're looking at those, and that's what we want to sort of pick out from those. But everything else, it's like cars, bikes, planes, trains, whatever. We want to see it. Haven't any train films. We want to see some more train films.
Like, how many people kind of help out?
The core team is probably just a few of us when it comes to the admin kind of stuff. But then when it comes to sort of selecting and judging the films, we have, I call them the sort of pre-selection task force of, I have like a bigger group of people that kind of help weed through the submissions and sort of get it down to a smaller number. And then, yeah, and then myself and those people in the jury and a few of us, we kind of work out the nominees from there, and then the jury. That's some of the jury that help with that, but then the majority of the jury, they just kind of get involved once the nominees are announced. So, for example, I'd say the sort of lead jury member would be Jack Stein. He's a very talented sort of DP. He was on the jury for the German Oscars. He was, he's won many awards. He's done many car commercials. But then aside from him, we have all sorts of people like we've got Tiff Needell, we've got Maximilian Cooper from Gumball 3000. Ben Collins, The Stig, Larry Chen, everyone knows Larry Chen, Vic Armstrong, legendary sort of stunt coordinator from, James Bond days, and Vicky Butler Henderson. We got, who else? We got Bruce Law, he's a very famous stunt coordinator as well. George Peters, he invented the Ultimate Arm. Colin Furze from YouTube. We have a big group of people, and they kind of get involved, and some of them are busy some years, some of them can't judge all the films, and we give them certain categories and share the workload. But yeah,
do they feel like judged if they have other directors judging their work?
The rule I have basically is that if there's a conflict of interest, then the judge won't be part of that category. It doesn't often happen, but it has happened a few times. For example, Andy Harris, who's on the jury, he's part of MSS Safety. He's been involved in some of the feature films, and I'm just like, well, you're not involved in the judging of that category. And the most important thing for me is that the Motor Film Award stays as a legitimate awarding body, and I think we're very strict about the way things are done and the standards that we hold ourselves to keep things fair and just. And I really don't want it to become like mates and favors and all this sort of stuff that you hear about, because that's not what it's about. It should be. It's difficult because when you judge films, it is often down to preferences, and you're comparing very different things. So what film is better? Often it's hard to say. That's why I just want as many people on the jury to cast an eye and to vote and to give their input, and then that way it's if more people liked one film over the other, then that's it decided, really, isn't it? But it is tough. And often it comes down to very, very close, and every year the jury is saying to me, why don't we have gold, silver, bronze, or a runner-up? And I'm just thinking, oh my God, we already have like 120 trophies every year or something like this. And the amount of people.
A participation award, yeah.
Participation award, yeah. But, I think at the level of the films that are, that are nominated, being a nominee is like already a win. So people should be really, really thrilled with that. Obviously to walk home with a trophy and be on stage and everything is another experience. But yeah, it's tough. And we genuinely stress and pull our hair out trying to do things justice and do things correctly and try and give everyone the sort of justice they deserve. So, hopefully we're doing the right sort of job, and we haven't had any complaints so far, so that's good.
Yeah, because like some directors compete on treatments, like on jobs, and their treatment wins, and then they'll I hate that guy, he beat me. So there might be some resentment, and they're like, I'm going to downvote his thing.
Most of our jury isn't actually really the directors. It's more like stunt coordinators or like personalities, and like you've got like some journalists and race drivers and stuff like that. The pre-selection team, we do have directors and stuff like that. But I really feel like when you've got so many people looking over something, if there's one person that's got an ego over one particular project, it doesn't make that much of a difference. That's why I just want as many people to be involved in that process as possible to kind of make it fair. And yeah,
and it seems like just talking to you about your career, it's like you have that attitude of inviting people and going on projects, and you don't have that ego, whereas we're talking about like how some directors might, and if you see that person, you're not going to invite them to be a judge. So and that'll easily come out after a few. For me, it really is just giving people a platform for their work. Awesome. And is the deadline? When's the deadline for submissions for this year? Is that already? This year's passed already. It was a few weeks ago. Yeah, you can't submit a film now. We will open again to submit early for next year, and
And now's a really good time to submit if you missed it, because the submission fees are like super cheap. So I do hate to be charging people to submit their films. It seems crazy, but like it's basically the way we fund the whole show. So and the amount of admin that goes into just organizing these films and watching them and categorizing them is just obscene. So I think people understand. But yeah, if you submit now, it's infinitely cheaper.
And then it goes up over time, or
yeah. So we have like an early bird deadline now, where if you submit now, it's very cheap, and then it, you know, next year it rolls into like the regular sort of fees, and then there's a sort of extended deadline. So like the people that are late, it just puts so much extra pressure on us, because as films are coming in, we're trying to sort through them and categorize them and, you know, get them in. And then of course everyone leaves everything to the last minute, and it's just like the floodgates, everything just coming in last second, and it is very, very difficult for the team. And so we charge, you know, an additional fee for late submissions just to try and counter that, because it's just, otherwise everyone would leave it to the last day and we would combust, you know.
So how can people support the awards show? Can they watch it online, or like, do you televise it at all?
We don't televise it. We kind of encourage people to come because we want it to be an in-person event. If it was live streamed, I feel like some, you know, nominees might be encouraged to not come and just watch the live stream. And we really want to keep, you know, in-person events going. And this is really about getting in the room and meeting people. So to support the awards, it really, I'd say to come along. But I know it's very difficult for people abroad, and if you're not a nominee, it's, you know, so it's a big ask, isn't it? But other than that, yeah, just follow us on Instagram, you know, Motor Film Awards, and, you know, sort of support and share things and get involved. Submit films, submit photos, you know. So we want to see what you've made, and yeah, get involved.
So do you recommend anyone else to try and start their own film festival?
If you want to start a film festival, you should. I think the most important thing with starting a film festival is, what is your audience? What's your niche? A lot of people start film festivals purely because they've got a genre that hasn't, you know, got an audience, or they're in a specific town that hasn't got a film festival yet, and they think there's an audience for it. So I think if you want to do it, go for it. But it is a huge amount of work. And if you haven't got experience in events, you know, prepare yourself for a whole headache of work to do, because yeah, it's a lot to take on. And I've kind of hit the ground running in the first year, and every year I ask myself, why do I do this to myself? Just like the amount of work I've set myself is just crazy. But, you know, I love it, and I think it's, you know, important to do, and, you know, it's always a joy to do. But if you want to start something, you know, make sure you do it properly, and yeah, go all in, and yeah, give it a go.
Awesome. For people who maybe want some advice on how to become a DP, or how to submit to the festival, or how to even start their own festival, what advice would you give them? I
mean, I always say that the best way is just go out and do it. Start shooting, even if it's with your phone, even if it's with just on your own with your phone or with a mate or something, you know, you can start to learn. And I think being a yes man is important when you're early on. I know a lot of people say you've got to be careful about, you know, not having people sort of take the piss or, you know, take advantage of you early in the career. And it's true, you know, and a lot of people do take the piss and they want people to work for free and all this sort of stuff. But ultimately, there's some sort of exchange of value there, isn't there? If you're working on a project, even if you're unpaid and it's early in your career, if you learn something, then that's the payment, isn't it? And if you're unpaid, then they can't really complain when you fuck it up, can you? So, you know, so just my advice is to shoot as much as you can, get involved in as much as you can, because you never stop learning. And I always think you're either going to have, you know, a good time or a good story. So it's, yeah, just about getting as much seat time as possible with a camera and being on sets. And it's hard, isn't it, when you're starting out and you see we all compare ourselves to things on Instagram, and everyone looks busy on Instagram and everyone's doing things, and it's always so much cooler than we're doing. But you know, you just can't compare yourself to the whole world of everything that's going on, and just try not to be put off by it, and just get out there and start doing it. And if you do what you love, someone out there is going to love it as well, and you know, they're going to hire you, or they're going to watch it, and you know, it's going to get you somewhere. So just keep going.